As you can obviously see and hear, we got Bryan Angus, the GM and the co-host of the morning show, The Breakfast Club, here on Nextsportstar with me right now. And Brian's here for a little tutorial. Of course, the show's called The Numbers at Noon. So Bryan just wanted to go over a couple things with you and for himself also, make sure that he's on top of how exactly all the numbers work when it comes to placing your wagers on the sporting events.
Yeah, we had a couple of tweets this morning at Nextsportstar. Don't forget, that's one of the ways you can get a hold of us, at Nextsportstar. And as well, Sheldon will put the number up here toll free that you can get for this. And when we had the idea of the numbers at noon, I talked to Eric about it. Just realized how many people are, playing. When I go into the gas station early in the morning, there is 4 things that guys who aren't buying gas get. Number 1 is smokes.
Yep.
Number 2 is lottery tickets.
Pro-line.
And pro-line
yep.
tickets. Then number 3 is pop, and number 4 is I can't even remember what the 4th one is. That
Condoms?
We get. No. But I mean, there's like 4 things. It's just whatever. But I just know how much people play all the time. And as I said to you guys this morning, for those of you who have us on all day long, when I'm talking about Eric's show, the thing about this is if you go to one of the touts that's in the newspaper and you make a phone call to them, you're into them for $50 before you even get any information. This show here gives it to you for free, and Eric is an absolute encyclopedia of information when it comes to delivering. So the whole idea of this show is for you guys who like to wager out there and play pro line or bet offline or anything else. But I had a couple of tweets today from guys who watched your show, but they're not sure how to read the numbers, and I couldn't really help them because I come from the old school, and having lived around the world a little bit, I mean, I come from the days, certainly in Britain, where there's a bookmakers on every corner, and you go in and it's 7-to-1 odds or 5-to-2 odds or 4-to-5 odds. You know exactly what they are. And nowadays they're all set by the big companies like William Hill or Ladbrokes or whoever. In the old days, there was bookies living by their own type of knowledge you have, and trusting themselves to be able to make
set
enough off the vigorish so they make themselves a decent living.
Yep.
So I guess what they're referring to, and if we want to pick an example here, it's kind of difficult for us to get it up on the screen, but for those of you who are in the paper or whatever else, here's a great example right now. Here's the Houston Rockets, which exactly we've got open in front of us.
So this is
go ahead and explain to us how the numbers work.
So this is from scoresandodds.com, and this is the 3 NBA playoff games tonight. So you look at the screen, you'll see 3 different games: Houston and Oak City, Atlanta, Indiana, and the Lakers in San Antonio. So the odds basically, as you see, under open.
And before you get into that, I would say just from knowing the game the way we do, never mind the odds, that obviously Oklahoma should be huge favorites.
And they are. So you'll see under open, they opened up as a 10.5-point favorite, and the total was 212. Now then, what you do is you look at line movement.
Now, how do they know that's a 10.5-point favorite?
Because right next to Oklahoma City, you'll see minus 10.5. In basketball, it's all about a point spread. So whoever is the minus is the favorite. So
see, that's important. That's one for you to know right there, because people don't know that. So minus 10.5 means they're favored to win by 10.5 points?
That's right, which means if you want to bet Oklahoma City on the point spread, they have to win by more than 10 for you to win your bet. If you want the underdog, you can take 10.5 points with Houston, and as they lose the game by 10 or less or win the game, you win. Now, there's a lot more to it. You look now beside that to line movements, and you'll see that the line has moved from 10.5 to 11, and then you look at the current beside that, and you'll now see 11.5, which means that money's come in on Oklahoma City, and they've moved that from a 10.5-point favorite to an 11.5-point favorite. The total went up by 0.5 point from 212 where it opened to now 212.5. So now, currently, if you want to bet the Oklahoma City Thunder, you've got to lay 11.5 points instead of laying 10.5 points.
Now, if you go back to open along that same line, folks, as you're watching this screen, beside the Houston Rockets where it says open, it says 212, small o, big O5. What does that mean?
That is basically 212, the juice of 5 cents on the over. So if you want to bet the O stands for over. The over 212, you have to lay the extra 5 cents. And now, so before you could get it at 212, now if you want to bet the over, you've actually got to give another 0.5 point. It's gone from 212 to 212.5 where it is currently. So that's why you saw the over. Basically, you could have got it at 212, but you had to pay a little bit more to take the over.
And the 212 is the total score in the game?
Total score in the game, that's right.
You didn't know that, did you? So if you haven't been playing long, that's what exactly that means. That 212 is if you combine the two scores together. Right. Now, just for clarification, in the last game, they beat them like 131 to.
Yeah, they beat them. They beat them large. They beat them. They covered. The first game was also a 10.5 point spread, and the game also went over the number. So what happens is lines get adjusted in NBA playoffs based on previous games. Because the first game went well over, now you're seeing a much higher total in this game than you did in game one, because people that watched game one now say, wait a second, this pace of the game is much quicker than we thought. The Thunder are running, Durant and Westbrook are playing a very high-tempo offense. They're hitting their three-point shots with Kevin Martin. Houston is not, allowing the shot clock to go down when they have the ball, because they've got to score quickly to have a chance to stay with them. So James Harden or Jeremy Lin or Chandler Parsons, they're jacking up shots quickly. And we saw that last night with Golden State and Denver. The first game of that series, the total was 210. Neither team eclipsed 100. The game went well under. So the total dropped from 210 to 207.5 last night. And last night was an absolute gong show where both teams were running up and down the floor and shooting the lights out. And the game went well over the numbers. So that's the thing about the NBA. The numbers get changed and inflated very quickly based on what we just see.
Okay, let me ask you another question, and now we come to the money line at the end. And by the way, we're going to move down to Atlanta, Indiana after this to try and put into practice what we learned off of this. So the last column, that there's anything up there now, is called money line.
Yep.
Plus 700 for Houston, minus 1,100 for Oklahoma. What does that mean?
Well, that means that if you want to just bet on who's going to win the game and avoid betting on the point spread, you have to lay $1,100 on Oklahoma City to win $100 for them just to win the game. I mean, the odds are they're going to win the game, right? So if you don't want to lay 11.5 points, you've then got to lay $1,100 to win $100. Now, conversely, if you'd like the underdog Houston to go in on the road and do what the Golden State Warriors did last night, and that's win outright on the road, if you bet $100 on Houston on the money line, you will win $700. So there is a bit of a discrepancy between those numbers. That's where the house makes their money, as you see, having to risk $1,100 on Oak City to win $100, or only getting back $700 by risking $100 on Houston. There's a $400 discrepancy there, which is obviously how you see books make a lot of money.
Okay, so this is a lot of information. Let's try and simplify it. We just moved down to Atlanta and Indiana. So Indiana wins the first game. They're hot favorites to win this series. The first thing I see at the open is the total points 188.
Yep.
Is that not low?
Well, Indiana plays very good defense. A lot of Indiana totals in the regular season were around 185 because they only give up on average of 90 points. Basically how totals are set, they're set on each team's average scoring and each team's average defense as to what they give up. So teams like Chicago, Indiana, Memphis, they all play very good defense. They all have very low totals. Teams like Golden State, Denver, Houston, and Oklahoma City, who play high-tempo, high-scoring offenses, will have totals in the 200s. Okay. So Indiana totals will always be much lower.
That's a good explanation. Minus 7 means that if you want to bet Indiana, underneath the 188 there, folks, minus 7 means that you've got to spot Atlanta 7 points.
That's right. That's right. Indiana's got to win the game by more than 7 for you to win your point spread bet on the Pacers.
And it seems to me such a minuscule amount considering how many points are scored in a basketball game, but the line's now moved out to 7.5.
Yeah, you see right now it says
and then
current
it came back to 7.
That's right. It says 7. That line will probably be 7.5. You also see an injury down there with Atlanta with Josh Smith, who got hurt in Game 1. He's probable, which means he's likely to play. But yeah, you could still get Atlanta with minus 7. And if you want to bet them to win on the money line, Indiana, you have to lay again $340 to win 100. Or
if you bet 100, you get 280 back.
If you bet on Atlanta, that's right.
So do you understand? I hope that clarifies a lot of the questions for you that you've been tweeting us about. That is pretty simple. bottom. It's kind of nice the way they put the injury information down there at the bottom to give you as much as you can. Now, the next question is, and we can do this right here on our own website, this information we have right on our own front page, but how do they make the bet?
Well, there's lots.
Let's say on this site here, for example.
Well, you can't make the bet on this site. This site is strictly used just to see what the odds are. To make a bet.
So then you got to go on to one of the betting sites.
Yeah, and I can't really, right now we don't have a sponsor, so I can't endorse a certain website.
But we can go to anyone that's out there.
That's right.
And you get in touch with them via email?
Email, or you call the toll-free number. You call the customer service, you email customer service. A lot of sports books will offer you a bonus to sign up with them. Like you'll see at the bottom here, Sportsbook, 100% welcome bonus, contest. Every sportsbook wants you to sign with them. Right. They'll all offer you some sort of a promotion.
All right, so you're going to call them up and you're going to get involved with talking. You're going to have a credit card ready, and away you go. Now, talk about our website here and the odds and where they can find them on our own website here at Nextsportstar. When you go to our homepage, folks, one of the things that we've done to tie into this, and I'm going to get out of here in a second because Eric's got a show full of guests, but as you go into our website, let's just go up a little bit. I mean, right here, right on the front site, we've got some odds available for you.
Right. So these are actually all the odds you would see right now on a site like Scores and Odds. All the hockey games are up right now. You can take NHL and you can scroll to Major League Soccer, NBA, college basketball, college football, the NFL, the NHL. It's all there, and it tells you the same thing, the money line, the total on each game, and we'll also, if you go to Show More Games, we'll bring up, the rest of the hockey board or, whatever, and then you can go click to baseball, press go. It'll give you the whole baseball board. It'll tell you the money line, the total of each game as well.
All free.
Yep.
I mean, the information is all there, and every day Eric gives you his picks. For example, in this baseball one here, just for the example you brought up, Cincinnati minus 172, Chicago Cubs 7. Just explain to me what that means.
Sure. It means if you want to bet on the Reds, you got to lay $172 to win 100. So if you want the Cubs, it would be plus 152. The total of the game is 7. So if you think it'll go over 7, you make the bet. If you think it'll go under 7, you make that. And same with Toronto, Baltimore right below it. Always the favorite. You'll see it with the minus, and then you basically take 20 cents off that, and that'll be your underdog because, of course, 10 cents for the...
Now, isn't it interesting that Toronto's the favorite today playing against Baltimore?
Well, they're favored because of the pitching matchup, because Brandon Morrow pitches for the Blue Jays. Even though he got rocked against the Yankees in his last start, Baltimore's got a kid up making his second career Major League start. So,
see, now, folks, exactly. The reason I wanted to come in here, and we've just taken 15 minutes or so to do a little odds 101. If you have any questions about it at all, again, the 1-800 number we have up on the screen. You can call right in while Eric's doing the show for the whole hour. Just call in and say, I want to make a bet on whatever, and he'll tell you what he thinks. I mean, this is a free service for you. That's the whole idea of the show. It's a free service. Twitter, at Nextsportstar, call into the 1-800 number, and he'll explain it to you if you don't know, just like he did to me. And if you see odds that are up and you're on our site and you go to different, you go through different sports, and you don't know what it means, you don't understand it, or you want to ask what you think, listen to the explanation he just gave me. That's what I mean about Eric. And I didn't come in here just to pump you up, but this was our idea we came up with. The fact of the matter is he knows all this. This guy could work as his own bookmaker. I shouldn't. Well,
I do have a lot of guests. Brian Blessing on today actually used to set the lines for Las Vegas. So Brian and I have been doing radio shows together for 7 years. So I do have experience talking to a lot of touts and a lot of guys that have set lines. So I do have an in-depth understanding of what they look for when they set lines and how they handicap. And coming up, actually, I apologize to Adam Figman from Slam Magazine. He was coming up at 12:15. We're going to get to him right away after the break. We'll preview the NBA playoff games today right now. But
if he throws me under the bus, he told me he had no guest, Adam. My apologies.
Okay. Anyway, I appreciate Brian coming in here, and hopefully you guys learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And we got 3 guests coming up this hour, so stick around because right after the break, Adam Figman from Slam Magazine on the numbers at noon on Nextsportstar.com.
Don't